This is Dave Zwang with What They Think, and with me is David Stevenson, and David is with Global Graphics. David, thanks for sitting down with me. Do me a favor, tell me a little bit about kind of what you do. What's your role, your title? What do you do at Global Graphics?
Sure. So, yeah, my name is David Stevenson, as you said. I'm a product manager, and I look after a couple of different technologies. One of them being Mako, which is our PDF SDK, and also something new, which is the SmartQI bundle.
Okay, so I for those people who don't really know what Mako is, just briefly, what is Mako?
Sure. So it's our SDK for dealing with page description languages in general, and PDF in particular. And it's really built on our heritage with RIPs and print technology. So it's got a RIP built into it, so you can rasterize a PDF. And it's also got a very rich API for manipulating the content of PDF, both for discovering what's in them and also for changing them in some clever way.
Okay, so it's basically an interpreter. It's a renderer, I guess.
It is, yeah. It's all of those things. So okay. It can interpret PDF, which it then absorbs into a document object model that you can manipulate with these APIs, and then we can output that to PDF and to other PDLs as well. So it's actually a very good engine for converting. And we have customers who use it just purely for that, for taking in PCL and turning it into PDF and that kind of thing.
Great. If I know that recently, well, maybe within the last year or so, Global introduced a solution around Mako that included Mako. I think it was called SmartDFE or something. Is that correct?
Sure. So SmartDFE is our solution for high-speed inkjet presses, and where Mako comes into that is that the print controller, which runs on a PC and kind of orchestrates the whole thing, is a Windows application, but it uses a lot of Mako inside it to, for example, to discover the number of pages that are in a job, the nature of the job, to generate a thumbnail for it so it can put it up on the screen. And so a lot of the components that comprise SmartDFE actually have Mako under the hood.
And it's from what I understand, it's also it's an optimized solution. So it actually is, it processes files really quickly, especially when you get into things like data, et cetera.
Okay, so the important thing to remember is that the RIP that it controls is the Harlequin RIP.
Right.
So although Mako is used under the hood for various kind of PDF manipulation purposes, the ripping is done by Harlequin and is done very fast. And we've developed a system called Harlequin Direct, which enables multiple RIPs to act in concert with one another. In some cases, having a single RIP working on one colorant, cyan, magenta, or yellow, etc., and then to screen it very fast as well, using our Screen Pro technology, and then there are some other stages. One of them is packing, which is to do with arranging the bits, and then this data is sent directly to the print heads. That's the other thing about the Harlequin Direct proposition. So the idea is that you can get rid of the disk. You don't have to rip offline. You can rip the job directly to the print heads, and keep up with some of these very fast inkjet presses that are appearing now.
Okay, all right. So now we've got a pretty good feel for at least part of what the kind of some of the components you've got. You've got Mako, you've got the Harlequin RIP, etc. Tell me a little bit about QI Direct. What is QI Direct?
Well, what I'd like to, I'll come back to QI Direct, because I just want to set the scene on quality inspection in general and what SmartQI is addressing.
Mhm.
The first thing is that, you know, all of us are familiar with the idea of a camera being trained on the output of a production line to spot anomalies in the things that are being produced. And the same is true for a printing press. And we've been talking to quality inspection companies who focus on print, and they have a number of challenges to solve depending on the type of inspection that they need to carry out. And what we've discovered is that there's broadly two types of inspection in the print space. The first is what we call a kind of human scale inspection. So this is taking an image of the printed page at a relatively low resolution so that the camera sees what a human would see. So for example, the colors that emerge from the combination of tiny dots of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black that are actually put down on the page obviously produce a color, and that's what the camera is looking for. And then that image can then be compared to a reference image that may be generated by Mako. Can also be generated by Harlequin as well, but we'll come back to that. So that's the first type of inspection. The second is where there's a camera or maybe even a spectrophotometer, which is positioned much closer to the output and takes a much higher resolution, or even measures a color at a specific position on the page. That type of inspection can detect inkjet anomalies such as nozzle out, but which may be, you know, not reliably detected by a low resolution camera. Now, I have to say that the SmartQI bundle, as it exists today, is really focused on that first idea of inspecting, which is kind of that human scale inspecting that I described. But even that has some challenges, particularly when you start talking about variable data, and where you may have situations where every page is different or every set of pages is different. So, our SmartQI bundle is aimed at that human scale category of quality inspection.
So I mean, basically, what we're looking at then is we're looking at an underlying infrastructure to support inspection systems, and to do it at incredible speeds using a lot of the technologies that you've already developed for some of your other solutions, to be able to do that kind of on the fly.
Yeah. Okay. So there's kind of two kind of further categories in this human scale inspection. One is where you're really dealing with offline or static data. So Mako is a perfectly adequate solution for that. You can use Mako, for example, to generate reference images for the vision system, whether the content is static or variable. There may be a need to check the quality of output as an offline process to identify jobs or pages that didn't make the cut for whatever reason. We have a customer, IC. They're a quality inspection company. You can read about their case study on our website. They use Mako to extract text from a production PDF to check that it matches a reference text and that is held elsewhere. So this is making sure that something like a pharmaceutical package is absolutely spot on, because obviously you can't have any mistakes in that kind of environment. But that's very much kind of an offline process. What you were alluding to was, how the hell do you keep up with a fast press that is running a variable data job? And that's really where DirectQI comes in. So what we've done is we've looked at how we can modify and adapt the Harlequin Direct proposition to generate an RGB reference image as quickly as possible at the same speed that the images that are being fed to the print heads are being generated. And in doing that, we can solve the synchronization problem as well, because what you don't want is a situation where the output gets out of sync with your sequence of reference images. If you're generating the reference image on the fly at the same speed that you're producing the images that are actually going to the print heads, then you solve the synchronization problem at a stroke. But that is a bit of a challenge, but we have looked at how we can do that. There's a couple of different ways. One is to, depending on how the Harlequin direct is configured, we can just eliminate the screening process and just take the output, the Contone output directly from the RIP and turn that into an RGB PDF. And by the way, we can color manage it if we need to. So if we need to calibrate it to sRGB or something like that, we can do that. And then for the Smart DFE, we would look at adding an additional station, another PC that is kind of an extra channel. So you would have maybe, 4 machines for running the different process colors, C, M, Y, and K. And then a fifth that is generating an RGB image from the same PDF data to generate a reference image that could be compared by a machine vision quality inspection system. And one of the technologies that quality inspection companies are using is things like OpenCV, which is an imaging library, which can be used to compare images and to do a whole lot of other clever things with images and to do them at speed. And then the other thing is that Smart DFE uses OPC. So this is an industrial interoperability protocol. And we can actually use OPC to drive the way that our Smart DFE, the print controller inside the Smart DFE works. And potentially, and we haven't actually proved this out, I'll be honest with you, but there's a possibility to have, a feedback loop from an inspection system that alerts the press that, bad pages have been printed and could instruct it to reprint the job or reprint a selection of pages. And as I say, the synchronization would remain even when the job was changing, because of the way we're generating that reference image, at the same time as the printed output. So it's an interesting area. We've been talking to quite a few quality inspection companies about this proposition, and they're very interested. In particular, they like Mako. They like the idea of being able to deal with PDFs, because PDFs are something that they're not particularly familiar with. Very happy dealing with TIFF images and that kind of thing. But when it comes to PDF, some of them are less confident. And we've been able to demonstrate to them that, Mako can solve some of the problems that some of the challenges that they're facing as their customers are demanding more in terms of particularly around variable data and very quickly changing requirements as far as the inspection is concerned.
Yeah, I would say I see this as a tremendous tool for packaging, because that's very high speed. Variable data or not, it's very high speed. A lot of it's mass customization, so they're changing individual packages on the fly, and this
for different regions and different brands and so on.
Absolutely. So at this point, this technology, how is it commercialized? Does it get licensed to the vision companies, to the press manufacturers? It's not something I would want to buy. I don't know where I would use it, but how does it get commercialized?
Well, you have to talk to our sales guys about that. But no, the principle is that we would license this technology typically to quality inspection companies. So just as we did with IC, they actually licensed Mako, but the proposition is the same. They would license something from us. It's royalty free as far as developing products around it are concerned. So it's an interesting proposition for some of these companies that haven't really have been put off delving into the print quality inspection space by not fully appreciating some of the nuances, and that's the thing that Global Graphics can bring to bear on this, because of our experience of RIPs and print and quality and all the rest of it.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I think this is wonderful. You said IC is using it now. We're using Mako now. When do you anticipate some of these people or these companies that are now looking at it and evaluating? I'm sure that it's not easy. They don't just look at it. They have to put it into their system, see how it works, etc. Any idea on timeline when we can begin to start seeing some of this implemented?
Well, that's a good question. So we are talking to people, but one of the propositions is really around our smart DFE customers, because they potentially have a requirement for quality inspection.
Sure.
And that is a growing number. You asked me the last time we spoke, how many there were, and there is just a handful. There's only one or two kind of signed up customers right now, but I did ask our product manager about that today, and he promised me there's going to be some announcements at Label Expo in September, okay. So you can see some more. So that presents an opportunity for some of these quality inspection companies to come up with a proposition that they could offer to smart DFE customers. So to watch this space, as they say.
Very good. That sounds very exciting, David. David, thanks so much for sitting down with me and discussing this. It looks like it's some very interesting technology that has an important application in production of print and packaging for sure.